this will be our starting point. So I welcome you all to Christiansborg Castle, also known as the Osu Castle. So this castle was officially built by the Danes from Denmark in 1661. So for the Danes to be able to build a castle in which we see, they had to purchase the land from the then king of Osu, named Chifokankwe, in 1659, in which they had to pay 3,200 gold florins for them to be able to build a castle in which we see. So after the Danes built the castle in 1661, they named it after the Amuna king, named King Christian IV. That's the main reason why the castle bears the name Christiansborg, meaning the Christian stone or the Christian's fortress. The Danes built the castle for three main reasons: to serve as their residence, a market center, and a storage facility. But the Danes were not the first European country to arrive on our shores. In 1471, it was the Portuguese that discovered the Guinea coast of West Africa. The reason why I said the Guinea coast of West Africa is because at that time, we never had boundaries in terms of Ghana, Togo, Nigeria, Benin. But we had kingdoms and empire like the Mali Empire in Timbuktu and the Ashanti Kingdom in Ghana. So for so many centuries, it was just the Portuguese that were trading with West Africans. And they were able to discover the Guinea coast of West Africa through them trying to follow the source of gold trade, which was happening between North Africa and West Africa. So whilst they were doing that, they landed in a place in Ghana, which today we call Elmina, which is a Portuguese word, Lamina or Damina, which means the mines. Because when they got to Elmina, they could virtually pick gold from streams and lagoons. So they stayed there. Then after 11 years, they constructed their first fortification in 1482. So the Portuguese continued trading with West Africans till the early part of the 17th century, in which the Dutch, the British, the Danes, they came in to break the monopoly of trade which was happening between the Portuguese and West Africans. Back to Christiansborg also, the first European country that arrived around this vicinity was the Portuguese and the Swedish. They arrived here in 1652. When they came, they just constructed an earthen lodge made out of clay, which they were using it to store the commodities they brought to trade with, and also practicing what we call the silent trading or the barter trading system. Commodities like, they brought material stuff to trade with, like mirror, schnapp, tobacco, spices. So that was what they brought to trade with. But when the Danes came in 1661, they replaced the earthen lodge made out of clay with stones, lime, and wood. That's the main reason why we have the castle in this structure. The castle also we see wasn't built as huge as we see it. So each and every time they made extensions, they indicated the various years on it. So right from the entrance, we have 1790. That's the Ducat of King Christian VII of Denmark. We have a half portion of it written in the castle C7 1797 by King Christian VII of Denmark. We have another portion written MCM XII 1912 by the British. We have GR 1915 by George Rex. And the last portion added 1921 by Gordon Gotchisberg. So the Danes were just trading in gold and ivory whilst they were in the castle till the early part of the 17th century, in which they also had a few blocks of plantain plantation over the Virgin Islands. That was when we also involved themselves in what we call the transatlantic slave trade, which human beings were added to the gold and ivory trade that was happening at that time. So this whole space we see right here was called the courtyard. You can have a look. This is where from West Africa you get gold and ivory and human beings lined up to be about to trade with. Whilst they were transporting the slaves into this courtyard, because they walked on foot whilst coming, some of them will be infected and injured. So when they get into the courtyard, they separate the stronger slaves from the weaker ones. From there, they trade them. After the slaves have been traded, they brand them. The branding is being traded all over West Africa. They were marched all over West Africa by the slave raiders. So when they get here, some of them will be infected. So after the separation and everything has been done, they brand them.
They have them stand right here.
Yes. So the branding is a metal which has the indication of every slave merchant. They put it into a fire. When it gets red hot, they put it on the bodies of the slaves to number them and also separate them into their various categories. From there, they kept them in chains and shackles, male, females, and children. Then they marched them straight into the dungeons. In the castle, we have about 12 dungeons. We'll visit one or two to see how they lived their lives in those dungeons. Once again, I welcome you to Christiansborg Castle. So we proceed to the first dungeon.
Okay. This is the first dungeon.
I will talk about, you can't go in there, stand here.
We can't go in there.
You said?
I can't go in there.
No, you can't go in there. So please. So it was that, I'll talk about it. Okay, so I welcome you all into one of the 12 dungeons we have in the castle. The dungeons are divided into 2 sections each. We have the inner chamber and the outer chamber. In there you can have about 60 slave captives kept in chains and shackles.
60?
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 60.
Yes. In here also 60 slave captives. Whilst the slaves were in this dungeon, in here was serving as their bedroom, their living room, their washroom. They did everything in this dungeon. They spent at least 3 to 6 months in these dungeons before they were transported to the Virgin Islands. Whilst they were here, their only source of light is this what we have on top of us, and also where they were fed through. And their only source of ventilation is this end.
No, the light, what light is that?
Like natural sunlight.
Sunlight.
That was how
So
they
if
had
there's no
it.
sunlight, what happens?
They will be in it. So the hole was sealed because a chapel was constructed on top of it by the Portuguese. That's why it's sealed. But initially, that was where they had their source of light and also where they were fed through. And because the slaves were using the dungeons as everything in their daily activities, some of them started having diseases, which they died. Then they dumped them in the ocean we have behind us, which was serving as their graveyard during the slave trade era. The lighting system we have in the inner chamber was added recently when the castle became the seat of government. So they dug these trenches for them to be able to lay the wires. That's why it's dark. But initially it was like this. So that's the inner chamber and the outer chamber. And the reason why the dungeons are divided into 2 sections each is because they had different slave merchants, which they own their own slaves. So merchant A owns the inner chamber, then merchant B owns the outer chamber. That's why the dungeons are divided into 2 sections. So now we're in the male slave dungeon. I will go with it, or we should visit the female slave dungeon.
So this is the male?
Yes.
No, I don't know. And these slaves were taken to the, which island?
Virgin Islands,
Virgin
the 3
Islands.
US Virgin Islands.
So let's see other dungeons.
Okay, so shall we? Wow, that is a dungeon.
So this is the female dungeon.
Yes.
Wow.
So I welcome you. Also divided into 2, the inner and the outer. In there you can have about 30 female slave captives. In here also 30 female slave captives.
Wow.
They went through the same conditions. They will stay in here for at least 3 to 6 months also before they will be transported. They did everything in here. It was serving as their bedroom, their living room, their washroom. They did everything in this dungeon. Never had their shower for at least 3 to 6 months before they were transported. So the hole is blocked because of the chapel construction also. That's why the hole serving as the source of light and where they were fed through is sealed. And this, where we have the metal bars, right, they were serving as their source of ventilation. So that's it. And these shelves weren't here whilst they were here. It was all added when the castle became the seat of government after we gained our independence.
This one was smaller than the.
Oh, that one, yes.
So
So-
how many did you say women?
30.
30,
30,
okay.
yes.
And 60 for the men.
Men, yes. So they were using the slaves in their farms. So the population of the women weren't more. It was more male slave captives than the females. That's why they had less female.
Wow.
So you are hesitant?
inner chamber. So dark.
The famous Carl Gustav Engman water system, which was constructed by a Danish surgeon in 1752. He was brought into the castle to treat the weaker slaves. When he got here, he saw that they had issues with water. So he organized some of the slaves, which they built this water system, which is about 25 to 28 feet deep and can contain about 10,000 gallons of rainwater. So basically, they connected pipes, which whenever it rains, it ends up in this water system. But now when we look into it, there is no water in it, because it got to a time, it started breeding mosquitoes. That's why we don't have water in the water system. And there are some stones in it also. So the stones were used in the filtration of the water. When they drop it, the water level rise, then the dirty particles will sink. That was how they were filtrating their water. And we do have two of the water systems in the castle. The first one is the one we have there, and this is the bigger version of the one we have over there. The one who constructed it also, which is Count Engman, we have a lot of people bearing his name now, because when he came, he got married to one of the princesses of Osu. So we even had a descendant of him, which he came to organize some archaeological research in the gardens we have right in front of us. When the castle is fully converted into a museum, we showcase everything she found. So that's it about the water system. Proceed to the next. Okay, so this section of the castle is called the Presidential Walkway. The reason is when we gained our independence from the British on 6th of March 1957, our first president, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, started using this castle as the seat of government. This castle was used as the seat of government till 2013, which it was moved to the Jubilee House, which is now the current seat of government. We have this stairs here, which is divided into 3 sections. The middle one with the gates are only used by presidents and any other dignitaries from different countries during the time the castle was used as the seat of government. Then the side ones by any other VIPs also. During the time the castle was used as the seat of government also. We do have this stairs also featured right behind one of our currency. So in Ghana, what we do is whenever we are trying to introduce a currency which has the highest denomination among them, we feature the seat of government behind it. So in 2007, our highest cedi denomination among the currencies was the 50 cedis note. When you look behind the 50 Ghana cedis notes, you see this presidential walkway featured right behind it and the front view of the castle outside. For now, our highest cedi denomination among the currencies is the 200 cedis note. And when you look behind it, you see our current seat of government, which is the Jubilee House, also featured right behind the 200 cedis note, which is now the current seat of government and also the highest denomination among our currencies. So that's the coat of arms we have right on top of it. So the cross-linguistic staff on our left represents local administration. The radical castle on our right represents national government. The cocoa tree we have on our left down represents the agricultural wealth of the country. The mining shaft on our right represents the mineral wealth of the country also. The golden lion in between represents the continuing link between Ghana and Commonwealth. The 2 eagles on the side signifies a protector with strength, very clear eye, keeping watch over the country. Then we have the star on top, which is representing the Lord Star of African freedom. Freedom and justice, that's the motto of Ghana. So that's the coat of arms. So now we do allow people to walk through the middle stair and also take pictures at that end.
Thank you.
So do any of you want to?
Definitely. Definitely. The presidential stairs. Come on, Greg. You don't want to walk through the presidential lane. Let's go here first. was reconstructed.
Yes, it was constructed as time goes on.
Okay.
But initially, it was just the ground floor.
Okay.
The slaves were not able. She asked me whether they were able to come to the upper section of the castle, and I said no.
Okay.
So that was what I was explaining to her.
Oh. As old as this place is, it still look beautiful.
Yes.
That's maintenance.
So, you guys stay there. The entry pool we have right here was constructed by our longest serving president of Ghana, Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings. Yes. Whilst he was using the castle as the seat of government, he constructed the pool to the castle, which he was in it to relax. We will visit his office very soon also. And also whilst the presidency was here, this brown stair to the brown gate will lead you straight to their residence. Whilst they were here, you can take some pictures at this end. Then we proceed into the Queen's Room.
This should be a holy land for me. That's why I'm taking off my shoes. Where my ancestors walked.
Okay, so I welcome you all into the Queen's Room. Yes, which was used by Queen Elizabeth II of England. So the reason is the British, they were our colonial masters to gain our independence from them. So when Ghana became a republic on 1st July 1960, Queen Elizabeth II needed to come, then hand over power fully to our first president, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. But she couldn't come in 1960. She came the following year, which is 1961. When she came, the castle was still being used as the seat of government. So they provided them this space and everything we see in here for her to use to hand over power fully to our first president, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, in 1961. And also this same room and everything we see in here was used by Prince Charles, now King Charles, in 1977 when he came to Ghana to grace Achimota School, a school which the British they built. Whilst they were celebrating their 50th anniversary, when he visited, he requested to use the room, which is more used. Then he provided him this space and everything we see in this room. So in the history of the castle, Queen Elizabeth II and her son, Prince Charles, now King Charles, are the only two royals which they've used this room and everything we see in here. And from then till now, the only thing which has changed in the room is the floor tiles. It used to be a wooden floor, but it has been changed into a floor tiles. So it was used by Queen Elizabeth II in 1961, then Prince Charles, now King Charles in 1977. So that's it. This door widely open will lead you straight to your balcony while they were here. You can have a look at that end, then we go into the chapel, which was constructed on top of the mountain.
This is beautiful. What's that?
The ECOWAS Multinational Maritime
Did they add this?
Coordination Center. Yes,
Okay.
they added. They
They
added.
added that.
Yes.
Okay.
So she asked about something.
Okay.
That's the main reason why we can't access it.
So this place is welcome.
This is the chapel. She asked about something, and
Okay.
we are talking about it.
Okay.
Shall we?
So this is the chapel.
Yes.
What do they do here?
We were praising God. Worshiping and praising God. So we can sit.
Do the slave worship here?
No.
Okay.
So I'll tell you the European country that built this chapel and what they were doing in here.
Okay.
Yes. So you can sit. Okay, so I welcome you guys into the chapel, which was constructed by the Portuguese. So whilst the Danes were in the castle, in a period of 4 years, it got occupied by the Portuguese. How it happened was, in 1679 in the castle, there was a mutiny between the Danish governor and the second in command. The second in command was a Greek. He murdered his governor, then handed over the castle to the Portuguese. At that time, they just arrived from Sao Tome, which is 45 minutes by air from this end. And because the Portuguese were Christians, when they occupied the castle in 1679, they constructed this chapel right on top of 3 female dungeons, which they named it St. Francis Xavier Catholic Church. They named it after their priest named St. Francis Xavier. When they occupied the castle also, they changed the name of the castle from Christiansborg Castle to St. Francis Xavier Castle. So the Portuguese were here worshipping God while slaves were in the dungeons crying for their lives.
Wow.
So they were using this end. They were in the castle till 1683, which the king in Denmark reported to the king in Portugal about the incident which led and how come the Portuguese occupied this castle. The Danes sent them a message, then the Portuguese left. So when the Danes regained their castle from the Portuguese in 1683, they changed the name of the castle from St. Francis Xavier Castle back to its old name, which was Christiansborg Castle. And because the Portuguese constructed this chapel, when the Danes regained their castle from them, they started using this end to officiate weddings between themselves and the locals. This same room became an educational ground for their kids, which they had with the locals, which were the mulattoes. So the Danes were in the castle, continued with the trading activities from 1683 till 1693, which this one we have his image here. Also took over from them, then he became the governor of the castle. His name is Prince Asmeni from Akwamufie in the eastern part of Ghana. The only black governor who has ruled this castle before. So how it happened was, in the 1600s, the Akwamus were the warlords around the coast. So the people in the community reported to his uncle, who was the king at that time, about the things which were happening in the castle, which is the slave trading activities. They did not understand, because all the time they saw that people were being marched into this castle, but they never returned. Because Prince Asmeni was the warlord, he was asked to come and investigate and get to know the things which were happening in the castle. So for him to be able to do that, he had to disguise himself as a cook and also as an interpreter, learned the Danish language within 6 months. He was able to speak it. So the Danes employed him as their cook and as their interpreter. Whilst he was working for them, he was using that same time to gather information and get to know the ins and outs of this castle. So when he got the information he needed, he went back to his village, which is Akwamufie in the eastern part of Ghana, narrated everything to his uncle, who was the king at that time. Because Prince Asmeni got to know the way of life which the Danes were living in the castle, he also had the initiative of running the castle. So his uncle helped him out with 18 military men to come to take over the castle from the Danes. Whilst they were coming, he told them to disguise themselves as merchants looking for it to buy guns. So when they got into the castle, because they disguised themselves as merchants, the Danes provided them with the guns and also helped them out in knowing how to use it. Because at that time it's a tradition that when you purchase a gun, you have to use it to get to know whether the guns are working or not. So when Prince Asmeni and his men got hold of the guns which were provided to them by the Danes, they used that same guns in defeating them. At that time, the only person who was able to escape that attack was the governor in charge. His name was Nicholas Johnson. When he got to know that Prince Asmeni and his men had conquered the castle, he jumped over one of the bastions and swam about 2 miles to a fort known as the Usher Fort, which was built by the Dutch. During that time, the Dutch were operating from that section. So they rescued the Danish governor with his broken arm, treated him of his wounds, and they reported in Denmark that their trading post has been conquered by a black man named Prince Asmini. So when Prince Asmini got to know that the governor has jumped, he went on to wear the governor's suit, declared himself as the governor of the castle, ruled the castle for 1 year and some months, from 1693 to 1694. He became the governor of the castle. He also continued with the trading activities in the castle.
Wow.
Then in 1694, he was convinced by the Dutch to resell the castle back to the Danes, which he agreed. They paid him 50 marks of gold for them to be able to regain their castle from him. So when he sold it in 1694, whilst he was leaving, he locked up the whole castle. Then he took the original keys of this castle to his village at Akwamufi in the eastern part of Ghana to show to them as an evidence that he was once a governor of a castle. Now, when you visit his village in the eastern part of Ghana, they do have a museum there showcasing the original keys of this castle to the world. The Danes regained their castle from him in 1694, changed all the locks of the castle, resumed with their trading activities, continued with it till 1803, which they abolished the slave trade in the castle. So when they abolished the slave trade in the castle in 1803, they weren't able to transport all the slaves they had in the dungeons to the Virgin Islands. So they started going to plantations with them. Some of the plantations started in our various communities like Osu, Legon, then Abokobi Sesame, where they had the large plantation farm. Continued with the plantation activities till 1850, which they saw that it wasn't lucrative as they started, stopped the plantation activities, sold this castle plus plantation. They had sugarcane and cotton. So that was what they were growing in here. They stopped, saw that it wasn't lucrative as they started, and also they were planting tamarind trees. So they stopped, then sold this castle plus their 4 forts along this coast to the British for £10,000 each. The British moved from the Cape Coast Castle into this castle, started using it as their administrative head office till the 6th of March 1957, which our first president and also first Prime Minister, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, helped us gain our independence from them. Then also started using it as the seat of government till we gain our independence from them. And also the last president who used this castle as the seat of government was the one who added the drums to the chapel. His name is Professor Evans Fiviatanos. He was the main man who added the drums to the chapel because he was using this end to fellowship every morning before they go to work, whilst he was using the castle as the seat of government. But during that time, the British, they were doing their slave trading activities in the Cape Coast Castle. And also at that time, our capital town was in Cape Coast. It was moved into Accra in 1877 when the British moved into this castle. And also this same chapel gave birth to one of the churches we have in Ghana, which is the Presbyterian Church, on 18 December 1828, when the slave trade was abolished. 3 Basel missionaries were brought from Switzerland to preach the word of God, but they died out of malaria because the water system down there was breeding mosquitoes. A set of 3 came, 2 died, was left with 1. He found his way in a Kropong in the eastern part of Ghana. Then he got healed through the use of neem tree for malaria. Then he stayed in that vicinity and spread the word of God across that end. That's the main reason why when you visit a Kropong, which is in the eastern part of Ghana, they do have a lot of Presbyterian products like schools, churches, and hospitals belonging to the Presbyterian Association we have in Ghana. But the Presbyterian church we have in Ghana started in this chapel. So that's it about the chapel. From here, we proceed to the President's office. Any questions so far?
So this man took over power and still run the affairs of the
Slave trade.
slave
But
trade.
he wasn't selling the slaves overseas.
Okay.
He was using them in his farm.
Oh,
He wasn't selling them like the Europeans were doing. He was just using them in his farm.
okay. Okay.
Is that all? Are we good?
I'm good.
Yes. So shall we proceed to
It's
the
time for me to sit on this one.
President's office?
Okay.
So these are the materials which were used in the construction of the castle. Stones and lime. The lime is mashed seashells. That was the binding component for the castle. And also when we gained our independence, our first president, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, constructed a section of the castle. So you see where we have the Black Star to the entrance of the castle is the new castle which was constructed by our first president, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. Every president that took over from him used it as their presidential office, but one man, he never used it. He chose this office for a reason. So we get into it to see the person who chose it and the reason why. And whilst the new castle wasn't constructed, these cannons were placed here for self-defense. That's why we have the cannons lying down right here. And this end was where every European country that occupied the castle hoisted their flags. So, so shall we proceed into the president's office to see the person who chose it?
Mama's just recording.
Wow.
Take the precedence.
Okay, so I welcome you all into the longest serving president of Ghana. His name is Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings. The reason why he never used the new castle, then he chose this office was just one reason. Before he became the president of Ghana, he staged about 3 coup d'etats. He was successful with 2. So a coup d'etat is when a military personnel overthrows a ruling government forcefully. So he staged about 3. He was successful with 2. And when he did that, he was curious about his safety and the surroundings. So he chose this office to use it as the security checkpoint for himself. Because whilst you are in this office, we are able to see directly through the first gate, the second gate. If not, these windows have been blocked, we'll be able to see our surroundings. So he chose this office to use it as the security checkpoint for himself. And whilst he was doing that, he was able to escape about 4 assassinated attempts against him. Because initially he used to park his helicopter in the gardens we have right in front of us. There are some concreted portions in the garden. So whenever he senses that his life is under any danger, he will just run down, then fly into a safer zone. That was how he escaped those assassinations attempts. So he staged his first coup d'etat on 15th May 1979 to overthrow another military personnel known as General Fred Akufu. He wasn't successful with that one. He got arrested by him, then imprisoned in Usher Fort, where the Danish governor Nicholas Johnson got to rescue. He was there till 28th May 1979 when General Fred Akufu planned to execute him. That was when his men rescued him.
This is
So after
quite
he was
old.
rescued on 28th May 1979, he staged another one on 4th June 1979. He had a period in Ghana which is known as the Kalabule era. So the word Kalabule means fraud. During that time, people bought foodstuffs which they were selling it at outrageous prices. So he took to himself to stop the Kalabule activities and overthrown General Fred Akufu. He was able to do that. Then after that, he handed over power willingly to one man, known as Dr. Ila Liman. Dr. Ila Liman also ruled Ghana for 2 years, but during his regime, he involved himself in a lot of maladministration and corruption. So Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings came back again to take over from him on 31st December 1981. He ruled till 1992. Till 2000, he was elected as a democratic president. So apart from our first president, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, who ruled Ghana for 9 years, he ruled Ghana for 19 years. 11 years strictly as a military ruler, then 8 years as a democratic ruler. He's not a fully Ghanaian person. He's half Scottish, half Ghanaian. Father from Scotland, mother from the Volta region in the eastern part of Ghana. So he chose this office to use it as the security checkpoint for himself and also receive guests in and out of the country also. He died not long ago in 2020.
Wow.
Yes. So from here, we are visiting the exit point of the castle, which is known as the door of no return across every forts and castles, but we are returning.
Definitely. Can I sit on the president's seat?
Yeah, you can sit and take some pictures like this.
Hmm? Yeah. Okay. Yo, Greg. What's up? Did he say where we are going to?
He said door of no return.
Oh, the door of no
That's
return.
what he said.
Wow. Oh,
We are returning. Door of no return. Door of no return. Go out and
I can feel the smell of my ancestors.
they left and they didn't come back.
Okay, so once you pass through this door,
They are not coming back.
We are going to the sea.
you are going straight to the sea.
Yeah, or we die. Another one.
No, you didn't die. You will send to the new wall. Are we all here?
Yeah.
So the stairs we just descended is known as the spiral walkway. It
Okay.
was used as an head count for the slaves whilst they were transporting them. So once they exit from this door, which is known as the door of no return, they are not returning back to Ghana, their motherland, or to West Africa. They were sent away to the 3 US Virgin Islands, which is St. Thomas, St. John, and St. Croix. They had sugarcane and cotton plantation over that end, so that was what they were using the slaves for. And how they were transporting them was the bigger ship would dock about 2 kilometers away from the shores. They used the smaller canoes to transport them into the bigger ship. And because the slaves were not only gotten from Ghana, they were from all over West Africa. Some of them having set their eyes on the ocean as big like this. So whilst they were being transported in the smaller canoes, they started committing suicide by jumping from the smaller canoes into the ocean. And because they were kept in chains in line, if one jump, about 3 or 4 would join, because they were kept in chains in line. That was how come they were being transported to the Virgin Islands. But this door, which is known as the door of no return, is now known as the door of return. So the reason is, on 1st August 1834, they celebrated the Emancipational Day over the Caribbean to bring an end to the chattel slavery in the British colonies. And Ghana was the first West African country to join in 1998. With the help of the president who visited his office, Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings, he helped us during the Emancipational Day celebration. So whilst we were celebrating the Emancipational Day, 2 mortal remains of slave bodies were brought over to break the chains of slavery. Lady Crystal from Jamaica, then Samuel Carson from US. Their mortal remains were brought over. Then they sealed through the door of no return at Cape Coast Castle to break the chains of slavery. Then from there, we had the door known as the door of return. And because of that, it has helped so many diasporans overseas to come to Ghana or to go to any of the West African countries of their preferred choice.
What's our duty?
So it has helped so many diasporans to come to Ghana to connect back to their roots. So what did they go and take up? This is a tunnel.
So the former door of no return is now the door of return. The entrance of return, right?
Yes.
Good. This should be the last check.
No. It's nothing. It's not. There is nothing there.
Okay.
It's just a tunnel construction.
Okay.
No.
Wow. So once they carry you march through this side, you don't go Europe with that.
Yeah.
You don't go Jamaica, you don't go America. Don't go Trinidad, St. Lucia, Barbados.
Name them.
Chai,
Yeah.
this place
Yeah.
must be emotional.
Yeah. Very emotional.
So the This must be a security room. Chai. Our ancestors suffer. Chai. The Slave Trade Center. This is where they took our ancestors from. Wow. They took our ancestors from here down to Europe, America, islands, and so many places around the world. Wow. So emotional right now. You see tour guys over there taking people into the castle and out, giving them all the details, explaining every bit of the events to them. Ghana. So many countries are cashing out on tourism. You see that? A lot. This place is being budgeted for by the government. They are making money. Oh. Wow. Man. Ooh.